What is up, everyone? It's finally time for my favorite archetype, Dimir Control. We've got a sweet new version of Dimir Control in this top 5 brews number 3. Let's check it out. Welcome back, folks. And so now we are on number 3 of the top 5 new brews. This is Crimelord Jace. Jace is back somehow from the dead, and he's tricking Oko into stealing some artifacts for him. I don't really know, but anyway, we got a sweet new deck, and let's check it out. So uh this deck is very similar to a Dimir Control list. You know, you've got the usual players: deduce, cut down, go for the throat, Shieldred's Edict, negate, siphon insight, the end, etc. But we actually got a lot of new good counter spells in this set. First of which, Phantom Interference is essentially a quench, like make disappear sort of, that has the upside of sometimes being able to create a creature. So for 1 mana, +1 colorless, it's a quench. And then you can also do 1 mana +3 colorless, make a 2/2 white spirit creature token with flying. And for 5 mana, you get to do both. So you can counter something and make a creature. And that is really powerful. Like at least we've seen that in the past to be very, very powerful. Getting to counter something and make a creature was always very good. So I don't think this is going to be an exception. It's kind of like a frilled mystic in blue and not in blue green. So pretty excited about that. Seems quite nice. And then on top of that, we got 3 steps ahead, which for 1 blue and blue, it's a cancel. But you can also pay 2 extra colorless to draw 2, discard 1, which is great, card advantage. You can pay another 3 to create a copy of a target artifact or creature you control. So, you know, if we made a phantom with the phantom interference, we can now copy it with this one. But at the very least, there'll be a counterspell with some card advantage stapled into it. So, very, very much upgrade to the existing counter packages that we had in standard. And you might even want more than what we have here. I mean, there is the Cavern of Lost Souls, which kind of makes your counter spells a little bit dicier in the current standard, but I think having 5 is pretty safe, and they have extra abilities, so even if you can't counter, you can do something useful with them. All right, so that's the initial package. We're also running these 2 new cards, Slickshot Lockpicker, which is kind of like the Snapcaster Mage. Of course, it's definitely much worse than Snapcaster Mage, but similar idea. For 2 and a blue, you get a 2/3 creature that, when it enters the battlefield, target instant or sorcery in your graveyard gains flashback until end of turn, and the flashback cost is equal to its mana cost. So you cast Cut Down turn 1, Deduce turn 2. Maybe you hold up a counterspell turn 3, and then turn 4 you can cast this and play your Cut Down. Or even turn 3 you can plot this, because maybe you don't have a good play, you don't have a counterspell in hand. You can plot this to use on a different turn, and plot lets you cast it on another turn for free. So turn 4 you get this down, and you get to recast anything that was in your graveyard. You deduce, your Cut Down, go through throats, etc. So the fact that you can plot it really makes it pretty flexible, and you can even plot it and then turn 5 sweep the board, and then turn 6 if you want to sweep the board again, you can sweep the board again. And so it kind of lets you do your deadly cover up 8 times if you want to, which we've seen in standard deadly cover up is almost essentially a win con, because you sweep the board and then you remove 4 copies of a card from your opponent's deck. You do that 4 times, and you kind of milled them essentially, like while you're controlling them. So if you can do it 8 times, it's going to be even more so. And then we have Jace here. Jace is a new planeswalker that's 2 mana, but you can't play it till turn 4. It lets you draw, discard, loot. It also lets you plot something with mana value 3 or less from your hand. So you can plot your Slick Shot Lock Picker. You can plot some of your removal, your deduces, any of those things. And then each of those abilities picks up, you get to 6 where you can start to copy and duplicate spells that you cast. So, you may end up copying Deadly Cover Up, you may copy your Slickshot Lock Picker. Um, so you're still trying to go for the whole like exile of whole opponent's deck for the most part, but you just have new tricks to get it. But on top of that, we have a new card, which some people are high on, some people are not so high on. Intimidation Campaign, 1 blue and a black, and when it enters the battlefield, opponent loses 1 life, you gain 1 life, and you draw a card. Whenever you commit a crime, you may return it back to its owner's hand. So um, this is kind of like if Disinformation Campaign and Dovin's Acuity, where you get to draw a card, and Dovin's Acuity actually was you draw a card, you gain 2 life, and then if you cast an instant spell during your main phases, so at sorcery speed essentially, then it would pop back into your hand. And that's all actually a lot of play in control decks. The Disinformation Campaign decks did okay, but the Dovin's Acuity decks actually were like tier 1 for quite a while. So there is a chance that this could be on a similar level to that, where you can get it down on turn 3 to draw your card and to kind of like gain some life, and then turn 4 you remove something and you get it back into your hand. So that's not that unreasonable. We also have a Siphon inside here, which is another way we can commit a crime. We're targeting the opponent. Um, and if we counter spells, we also commit a crime. So there's so many ways to commit crimes in this deck. But this is another benefit to having the Jace in here, because on turn 4, we play the Jace, we plot our Intimidation Campaign, and then we can still hold up like Deduce or Counterspell or a removal or something like that to keep our Jace alive. And then the next turn, we play the Intimidation Campaign, we draw some cards, we loot with Jace, we set up so that we can commit a crime on the next turn and get our Intimidation Campaign back. So pretty sweet. It seems like you could definitely draw a bunch of cards with the Intimidation Campaign. The life drains, it's going to be a while if you're going to win the game off the draining, but at least it will probably stabilize you a bit as you're gaining some life. But it's interesting, and like I said, Dovin's Acuity was a tier 1 deck for a while. There was a blue-white Dovin's Acuity control decks that were doing very, very well back in the Dominaria set, and so there's a chance. There is a chance. Boros Convoke is pretty scary, but we do have sweepers, we do have early removal, and we do have counter spells to try to help with it. So maybe it's going to be good enough. Either way, I'm going to have a blast playing it. It looks very sweet. The Dimir archetype has kind of proven itself to be pretty good in the last few sets. Definitely there's like the mid-range version that's very, very good. Control version is probably about tier 1.5. So we'll have to see if this is enough to bump it over. At least the counter spells are good, and I have a feeling that Slick Shot Lockpicker is going to be good as well, but we'll have to see. All right, that's going to do it for number 3. Hope you are also excited for Dimir like I am, and until next time, go out there, have some fun, and see ya.